annuals arrived today, and I'm really excited about it. I hardly slept last night. But that's not what this video is about. I'm going to take you around and show you a few things in the garden that did not make it over winter, as well as some things I picked up from Nature, and some proven winners annuals for 2024 that are unreleased that I'm going to be trialing this year. Just kind of happened to fall into my lap. So let's get started. So we're going to start right here with these Nandinas. Now this is Obsession, also called Heavenly Bamboo, Nandinas are. It's coming back. It did completely defoliate and had a lot of just defoliation in general, and it's been a really slow start in spring. Now, right next door, this one's looking perfect, and it's the same variety. So that may have just been a fluke. That one may be a little more exposed to the wind. This one may be protected a little bit by the staircase. Not sure. But this one down here also defoliated. This is pink. I can't remember the name of it, but it's coming back. Okay. So it's really bright out here. I took off work today to get these annuals. That way I could kind of arrange them where I wanted them, and then get planted in the evenings after work sometime this week. I have another Nandina called Lemon Lime from the Southern Living Plant Collection that also is coming back okay, but I lost one of them completely. So if you've been following along since last year, you know Nandinas were something that I added to my garden. They're marginally hardy here. They're hardy just to zone 6. And we had that really odd, I guess it wasn't odd because it was still within the temperature of our zone, but it was kind of like a polar vortex come through and had extreme wind and like -5-degree temperatures right here. And it caused a lot of damage to some of these things. So I'll walk you around and show you a few more of them. I haven't lost as much as I was thinking I might have. Things are starting to show a little bit of life, but you can tell they were severely damaged in winter just because they're taking so long to wake up, and some of them aren't completely leafing out. And so there's a lot of dead branches and stuff like that. So one of them is this birch leaf spirea, called Glow Girl, I believe it is. Now this one struggled for the past few years anyway. I used to have it in a container. It hardly got any water because I'm terrible at watering things if they're not on drip, and I finally put it in the ground last year or the year before, and it still is not on drip in this area. I never added drip. I do have a little line here for the tree, but most everything has to fend for itself. So I just need to come through and cut out some of these branches. We have all of the Pugster series butterfly bushes died all the way to the ground pretty much, and I had to trim them all the way back. Doesn't seem unusual for the Pugster series here. They are hardy here. I've never lost one. But some winters they will die completely down to the ground and I have to cut them all the way back, and others they just suffer partial dieback. So they do seem to be hardy here, as Proven Winner says they are. And they will stay smaller because they can't put on a ton of growth for the next year that's left over. But just know that if you lose one here, I think they're kind of marginally hardy, depending on how early you got them in the ground and what our winter was like. If you put them in the spring, they're most likely to settle in before winter. If you plant them in the fall, you might have some issues with severe dieback or death in general. One thing I'm really disappointed in, and I've never lost a boxwood this way, is this green tower boxwood. I got 2 of them right here on either side of the fence, and they completely died all the way down to the base. And so I got these as a structural upright element here. I don't know that I'm going to replace them. I think I'm going to go through and selectively prune off stems, because you see there's still some green in some places. So I'm going to start at the top and start cutting down until I start seeing some green and cutting off, and they might just be really ugly looking for this season. But since they're still alive down there, I don't want to completely cut them or remove them, but I may end up doing it anyway because they just look really bad right here. To my knowledge, and I don't know that I would notice since I have so many plants in my garden now, but I didn't lose any perennials. I think I may have lost some coneflowers here and there because some of the patches don't look as thick as they were last year, but because I heavily plant like right next to each other, I wouldn't realize whether I lost them or not, actually. I did lose the Tampa spruce, so I replaced it with this little giant arborvitae that I showed you in the prior video. That one had struggled for years in the garden, and I had transplanted it just to give it a little more life, and it did not make it. This Rhode Island red Japanese maple suffered severe dieback. So you can see, I actually scratched the leaves or the stems the other day, and it appeared to have life in the stems, but it's not leafing out. So you can see there's a leaf down there and a leaf over there. This may be one that I come and cut back very harsh, because Japanese maples are expensive. I can't remember how much I paid for this one. I think it was only $50-something because it was a half off or something. So I may plant annuals in here around it and cut this back. That way, give it a little longer, a little chance. I don't like to replace stuff super quickly. I like to give things a chance if I can. But some statement pieces like that specifically, I bought to be a statement piece. If it's not doing its job in being a statement piece, sometimes I'm a little more encouraged to go out and replace it. I don't think I lost anything in this bed. I think some of the 𝗍𝗓𝗏 may not have came back. I was worried about this native here. This is a Pearl Glam Beautyberry, and you can see it's just now starting to leaf out. So a little later than I expected it to come out, and some of these stems are dead. You can see they just break. There's no pliability in a lot of it. So a little die off there, but it's coming back. So I just shot that video, I think it was last weekend or maybe a week and a half ago, about these plant supports. And you can see they're already almost completely hidden by how quickly these hydrangeas have grown. You can see the legs of them right there, but a few more weeks, you won't even be able to tell that. These are their 5th year. You can see how quickly those are putting on growth and all the buds they're gonna have just based on all these terminal stems here. This Burgundy Hearts red bud that I planted last year has a lot of dead stems. I'm gonna give it a little longer to leaf out because there are some new ones putting on growth, like right here, but there are no leaves on some of these, and they are also no pliability, crispy, so those can be cut back a little bit. I think it's just kind of where I planted this red bud. It's kind of a low spot. We had a really wet summer after I planted it, and then we had that really cold winter and kind of a really wet winter as well. And this is what happens sometimes, but it'll be fine. It'll gather enough energy to produce lots of new growth this year. You can see it's already putting on growth in several different spots there. I just need to come through and clean off the little dead branches, which sometimes happens when you transplant a tree anyway. I had the same thing happen to the dogwood that I planted last year as well. I got this bed all ready for annuals last night. Come through and raked the soil and leveled it out a little bit, pulled out all the weeds. So it's looking good and ready for planting. Maybe I can get some of that done today. Now, this is something I did not expect to lose because they've done really well in my garden, and that is Weigela. I don't remember the exact name of this one. It is coming back very, very little at the bottom. So I think this one is okay. This is one of the smaller varieties. It gets, 1.5 foot tall and wide. So it was just kind of a perennial substitute for this shady space. And I think it's one of the 𝗍𝗏𝗦 series. I have a 𝗍𝗏𝗦 purple effect over there. This was a different one that was brand new within the past year or so. And so it's coming back heavily damaged though. These are producing tons of bud. These are the tiny tough stuff you can see here. And I'm excited about these. I usually have a little die-off from them though, so I'll come back in a couple weeks and cut the stems that are really upright with no growth on them off, so all the other new growth can kind of fill in. This is a Weigela by Proven Winners, and I thought I had actually lost it too, but it appears to be coming back today. It's not produced. I mean, these Weigelas should have leafed out a month ago. All of my others have and have been leafed out for some time, and I guess these were just so heavily damaged during winter, they're taking their sweet time. But there are some buds. I don't know if you can see a little green there, and there's green right at the base down there. So this actually may be coming back. It has really dark purple, almost black leaves, which is why I really like it. It's a nice color contrast to like the lavender that I have planted in front of it here, and the other perennials and shrubs surrounding it. So that's exciting that that might come back, but it did have significant die-off completely to the ground pretty much. This is the Little Rascal Holly by Monrovia that I planted last year. I still got the tag on it. It suffered a lot of die-off from the wind that came from this direction. You can see how bare it is back there. It is putting on new growth, kind of slower than I would have liked it to recover this spring, but the fact that it is still putting growth on some of these branches that look kind of dead and still getting buds, that's a good sign. So I may have to come through and prune out some of the very tips of them, like this one right here looks pretty crispy, but underneath there it's got fresh buds on it. So this should leaf out pretty nicely. I'm just kind of disappointed, and it's probably just the winter that it did not stay evergreen all over all winter. I love how this flower bed that I redid last year is coming together this early. You can see all the different colors in here. Some things are not its true colors yet. So we have the gold arborvitae here, the brigadoon, 𝗖𝗢𝗏𝗧𝗦. We have roses. We have dark 𝗖𝗢𝗏𝗧𝗦. This is the Fire Chief arborvitae. I think this is a blue spirea, blue kazoo maybe. Its leaves are, its foliage isn't looking too blue right now, but it'll change. The dark back and black sedum, ground hug aronia, I think this one is, or it's small mound, something similar. More roses, lemon lime Nandina, the Weigela. This is checkmark trilogy that's going to have all the different color blooms on it. The irises, variegated irises. It's just coming together really nicely. And then we have, of course, these that are looking much, much better in this spot. This is cherry blossom 𝗩𝗜𝗗𝗘𝗧𝗦. It blooms in the spring. It's a relative to the hydrangea, and I previously had it in front of the fountain, and it was doing really, really terribly there. I think all of the water splashing it did not enjoy at all. But I moved these last year to this location. I think there's a little triangle of 3 here, and they are putting on a ton of beautiful new growth. I need to come here and clean up some of the dead stems left over from when it was transplanted last year. But it's growing and putting on such vigorous new growth that you may not even be able to see these. And it's still leafing out nearly to the end here. So just a few completely dead ones that need to be removed. Looking back on it now, I think that is about it for the shrubs. I do recall losing some perennials, and that was Hakonechloa, which seems kind of an odd one to lose, but they were plugs planted at the end of last year. Not very far at the end of last year, and some of them survived in one location and some of them died in another, so I'm not exactly sure why. And they're just now kind of starting to come out of the ground anyway, so they may still come back. But typically there's a little bit of evergreen foliage left on them, and I haven't seen any. So I may have lost some of those plugs that I planted, which is not unusual to lose plugs when you're planting them that small. That's just something I'll need to add back and maybe need to order more of, because Hakonechloa can take a while to get going. I'm now going to show you some things I picked up from 𝗖𝗎𝗃𝗧𝗦 this past weekend, which was really exciting. I got to meet some viewers there. I think 8 people in total showed up to pick up the shrubs that I was giving away. We had 9 winners, and then actually I think 7 people showed up because we had 9 winners. 1 told me they couldn't come, and then 1 didn't show up. But I had people from all over come, some who had never been to 𝗖𝗎𝗃𝗧𝗦 and really enjoyed it, and they were asking if it was like that every weekend, because it was kind of like Kings Island, an amusement park. The parking lot filled up almost immediately within the first 10-15 minutes of the store opening, so it was really exciting. But I bought some tropical things, which is really interesting, one of them being a red obsidian banana. So if you watch The Impatient Gardener on YouTube, you know she had one in a container last year. I don't know if it was this exact variety, but I saw it and it reminded me of her, and I got the inspiration to add it to my landscape this year. So this is it. I have placed it kind of next to this corner where the blueberry bed is, and it'll grow up here. It's not supposed to get as big as regular bananas. The tag says 3 to 4 feet, which we'll see. I know the Impatient Gardener's got much bigger, but if it does get big here, it'll be a really nice statement piece in this corner. But it has really beautiful red, green, almost dark purpley foliage, and it'll be a really nice accent in this bed, because here we have that banana, we have a rose, And here are the 𝗑𝗓𝗓𝗡𝗧 hibiscus, which I'm already getting growth on, and I have been for a couple weeks, which is kind of unusually early for these, I feel like. So that's a good sign that they're going to start going a little earlier. And as we go down, you can see the bed's looking pretty good. I have not weeded this bed yet. I did spend most of the weekend out here weeding, and that's about all I did. And I got a ton done. I filled up the entire trash can full of weeds, and it made me feel so good about it. So the first time I go through a bed weeding, I usually catch everything, but I miss a few things here and there, and I need to go back through and take another quick pass through to grab what was left over and finish these beds behind me here so we can be on our merry way with mulching. Now, I also picked up another banana, and this one is kind of special to our area. So 𝗩𝗓𝗏𝗡𝗦, the owner of 𝗍𝗏𝗡s, has been breeding a banana variety for our area that is hardier. You may be familiar with what they kind of refer to generically as the hardy banana. They can be hardy here, but they require a lot of upkeep. Sometimes you have to put a little netting around them and fill it with leaves and give them a little more protection. So when I was a child in Alabama, my Aunt Teresa loved her banana trees, and she always kept them around her pool. And every winter, this woman would dig them up and bring them into her walkout basement. And I can only imagine what a chore that was now that I've been gardening a little bit. I wouldn't want to do that. But she loved those banana trees so much, she kept them in her walkout basement, and then she brought them back out in spring, replanted them around the pool. And so I don't know, they would have probably come back if she would have just left them out there, but I don't know that she wanted to take the risk of losing all of them, because she had, you know, upwards of probably 20 around the pool. I don't know how many exactly it was, but it was a really beautiful tropical scene in the summer there. And having varieties like this that are more easy to take care of, you could just leave outside. And so 𝗩𝗓𝗏𝗡𝗦 and his crew there have been breeding this banana for a number of years, and it's called the Northern Wonder, and you can purchase it directly from 𝗍𝗏𝗡s if you go visit, but they're not supposed to require as much care in winter necessarily as some of the hardy bananas do. And I planted it right here where this gate is, kind of as a background element right here. So it should grow up, get really large, and kind of fill the space that is taken up right here by the retention pond. So when you look through the gate, all you'll see is like this huge banana. You can see it's already putting out babies down here at the bottom. I'm really excited about this one though. The leaves are really gorgeous. So if you visit 𝗍𝗏𝗡s in the summer, they have these out front near their entrance sign. And I'm pretty sure this is probably the variety that they have out there, because I'm not sure that they provide them any additional care in winter. And these things get massive. They've been there for years, and probably like 20 foot tall. So you can imagine the gate here. Let's see, where's it at? Right there. And there just being a huge banana tree growing behind it, blocking off kind of the retention pond so I don't have to look at it. I do have the green giants, but there's kind of a gap where the fence is there. So a large banana right here. I think that'll be kind of neat, tropical, interesting, kind of block off, and as I go to get my tomatoes back there. Just an interesting focal point to the garden. I also got a lot of my vegetable garden planted, not completely all of it. I've still got to put the tomatoes in back behind the fence like I was just mentioning. But I had a lot of pepper seedlings that I grew myself. So 𝗏𝗡𝗎𝗡𝗧, Craig's Grande, 𝗑𝗏𝗏𝗡𝗧, which I love, 𝗑𝗓𝗏𝗡, Golden Honey, California Wonder, King of the North, blotch, which I grew last year and I really liked. And then I got a 4-pack or 4 separate ones from 𝗍𝗏𝗡s while I was there. Big Bertha, a orange bale, a green bale, and a golden bale. Peppers are something I've grown for years, and they tend to do pretty good. Last year was probably my worst pepper year, and I blame my friend Jess, because she came the year before and she usually doesn't have good pepper year, and I knew she cursed me. And this year they did much better. They're still looking a little puny right now, but they'll catch on. And then in this bed, I planted back my horseradish. One of my viewers actually gave me a red robin tomato, which is supposed to be a really tiny short variety. So I stuck it at the front of this bed. I seeded some cucumbers along this trellis here that'll grow up. I got all the dahlias planted, which I may have showed you in another video. I think I seeded some parsley here just from seed some lemon basil, which I really love, really great thing. And I put a 𝗗𝗧𝗦𝗡 melon in this to grow up this obelisk, and some kale up here at front. Still got to do this entire bed. 𝗍𝗟𝗡𝗧 does grow the 𝗟𝗡𝗧𝗏 basil, which I really love because it doesn't change flavor when it goes to seed. And so I planted it next to the peppers here. So I've got all of this space that is currently taken up by these shrubs that I have left over to plant out in the garden. And after I get those moved, I will probably plant lettuces or stuff in here. I still also have some additional space there. Got to get drip to these before it starts getting too warm. It's already getting pretty warm right now. And I'm actually getting seed from all of the mini clover that I threw out here germinating. So you can see all those tiny green speckles there. Now, last but not least, before the annual shipment gets here, I want to take you up front and show you some 2024 Proven Winners annuals that I'm going to be trialing both in the landscape and in containers this year. And I've been waiting to plant them because I wanted to get my other annuals in. That way I can mix and match and make beautiful combinations. I'm really excited about some of them because there are some Supertunia colors that are new to the market that are just perfectly in my color palette. So let's take a look. So I've hidden them all here until my annuals arrive today, and then we'll get them moved around. Lots of beautiful Supertunias here. There's 4 different new Supertunias. We have a Calibrachoa, and I'll go over these briefly. The one Supertunia I'm kind of most excited about is this one right here. It's called Bermuda Beach, and it is a soft pink corally color, but combined with this yellow, which is Saffron Finch, is the new variety name. Look at that. Gorgeous in a container. This one's also really pretty. It's called Hoopla. And then we have a mini vista down here called Sweet Sangria. So it's a more purpley fuchsia type color Supertunia. But look at all of these beautiful things. This is a 𝗍𝗟𝗏𝗡𝗧. This is going to be trialed here because I think they tend to like a little less humidity and a little more heat. So we'll see how they look after they get out in the landscape. This may be one I plant mostly in the landscape just to see how it does. If it does like it a little drier, I can probably find a good place to put it that doesn't get sprinkler overspray. This Super Bina is also glorious. It is a light pink. What's the name of it? Pink cashmere. Look at that. And it kind of changes color. So you can see it ages to a little more of a white, but it comes out more of a pink. So it's got all different colors on it at the same time. I really love this one too. It's striking. It's called Cherry Burst. So there's a similar variety, I think, already called Royal. Maybe it's Royal Cherry Burst. And it's a little darker, but this is more of a hot pink striped one. This is one I'm really excited about. So, you know, last year I was able to find Chocolate Drop Sedum, which is a trailing sedum that kind of grows over and falls down containers. This one is called Cherry Drop. So it's got a red center here, a little more red color than the Chocolate Drop, which is a brown and green sedum. And I'm going to be planting these in my hay rack containers just like I did last year, some of them anyway. Let it spill over the container as a nice spiller plant. And this is a potato vine called Red Hawk. You can see here it's a very dark maroon red color. Its new leaves come out kind of green, just a little dot, and they immediately start transitioning as they hit the sun to that red color. And lastly, we have this Calibrachoa called Double Vintage Coral. I'm not sure that coral was probably a good name for it. It is kind of corally on the newer blooms, but it does kind of age to a darker color, as you can see there. Calibrachoas can be really difficult to grow here because we are so humid and it doesn't like the wet or the humidity. And I mentioned in the video where I went to Stock Slaggers a couple weeks ago that I've killed many a Calibrachoa. So it'll be interesting to see how some of these arrangements go. I'm really interested in combining, of course, this corally Bermuda Beach petunia with the Saffron Finch yellow. I love both of those colors in the garden, and that was just a perfect match when I saw that those were available. Thank you guys for joining me, and remember, in a world full of hate, be a light. Take care. Bye.